In today's video, we're going to learn how to convert decimals to fractions. So in the last video, we were taking fractions and converting them to decimals by doing long division. In this video, we're going to take those decimals and turn them into fractions. And you don't need to use long division for this one. However, you do want to remember your place value. So we're going to do a quick review here of place value when you're looking at digits to the right of a decimal. So here's my decimal place here. I have 0.125. The 1 is in the tenths place. That's tenths. So the fraction for that would be 1/10. The 2 is in the hundredths place. Hundredths. So that that fraction would be 2/100. And the 5 is in the thousandths place. So that would be 5/1000. So when we're converting decimals to fractions, we're going to use place value to help us create the fraction, and then we simplify the fraction if needed. Okay. So please make sure you title your page decimal to fractions, put today's date. All of the notes that you see today on the screen should be in your notebook. First, we're going to go over the types of decimals. We're going to do some examples, and then we'll go over the rest of the notes that you see on the page here. Okay. All right, so let's take a look here. First things, I want to review with you guys that we have two types of decimals. So remember that there are two types of decimals that you learned in the last video. Terminating decimals, which end, you see the last digit here is 5 for 0.25. We also have repeating decimals. This one is 0.3 repeating, but I want you to remember that that really is 0.3333, and it goes on forever and ever. Okay, so we use the little repeating bar above to show that that digit continues to repeat. Okay, so how do we change both of these types of fractions to a decimal? So we're going to use our place value in order to do that. Let's start looking at the examples for terminating decimals first. Okay, so terminating decimal. So even though here we had 0.3 repeating, that's a repeating decimal. If it doesn't have the bar on top, it's going to be a terminating decimal. So this is 0.3 and it's a terminating decimal. Okay, so how do we change 0.3 to a fraction? Well, if you take a look at the 3, you want to take a look at what place value it is. So let's see if I can get both on the screen here. That 3 is in the tenths place. It is the first digit that is after a decimal point, 0.3. So that is in the tenths place. If you say the word of this number, it's 3/10. It's in the tenths place. That is your fraction, 3/10. Okay, so you look at the place value, that's going to be your denominator. It's in the tenths place. It's going to be the denominator. The number that is the digit that's in the position would go as your numerator. Then you look to see if your fraction is simplified in simplest terms. There's no number I can divide 3 and 10 by to get smaller digits. So this is your answer. Okay, so the decimal 3/10 is written as a fraction as 3/10. Okay, so hopefully you can see how knowing place value or using your place value is helpful. Whichever place the number ends at is your denominator. So you look at the last digit in a terminating decimal, whatever place it ends at, that's your denominator. Okay, so with that being said, take a look at the next one. We have 0.025. 0.025. Pause the video and try to form the fraction and simplify it if it's possible. Okay, so hopefully you've paused the video and you've tried it. We're going to take a look at the place value for the last digit. This is a terminating decimal, so it has a last digit, which is a 5. And you just want to take a look to see what place value does that end. So it is in the tenths, hundredths, thousandths place. Since it's in the thousandths place, my denominator is going to be 1,000. And then I just take the number. Now this is a 0 before the 25. You don't write a number as 025. This would just be 25 thousandths. Okay. But we need to simplify it. So in order to simplify it, we're going to come down here and take our 25 over 1,000. And I know this can be simplified. Now, I try to tell my students when you see the numbers like 25, 75, 50, numbers that you can use the idea of quarters with, then that can be very helpful to see if you can simplify. So if I think of this as a quarter and I think of the 1,000 as $10, how many quarters can I break $10 into quarters? Yes. So you know it can be simplified. And I can divide both of these numbers by 25. $25 divided by 25 is 1, and 1,000 divided by 25 would give me 40. So the decimal 0.025 will simplify to the fraction 1/40, or 1 over 40. On to the next one. We have 1.75. I'm going to let you pause the video and ponder on that one for a moment, see if you get it. What questions did you have if you got stuck on it? Write those questions down and listen to see if I answer them for you. So in this situation, I have a 1 or a number that is to the left of the decimal. That's a whole number. It's in the ones place. When you have a fraction or a decimal that's written this way, you're going to separate them. So you can think of this as 1 plus 0.75. And if you think of it like that, then you can just focus on changing the 0.75 to a fraction and then adding the 1 to that, okay? So I would think of this as 1 plus. So how do we change 0.75 to a fraction? Again, take a look. There's my decimal. It's the decimal is in the before the 7. And then I have a 7 and a 5. My last digit is a 5. What place value is that in? Tenths, hundredths. It's in the hundredths place. So my denominator is going to be 100, 75 in the numerator. And can I simplify this? Yes, I can. I can divide both of them by, use my quarter reference. You could divide both of them by a 25. 75, 25 goes into 75 3 times. And 25 goes into 100 4 times. Okay. So this becomes 3/4. Don't forget about the 1 in front of it. So this is just going to turn into a mixed number. So this is going to equal 1 and 3/4. Okay. So to recap terminating decimals. For terminating decimals, your denominators are going to be your place value. If it's in the tenths place, your denominator is going to be a 10. If it's in the hundredths place, your denominator is going to be 100. If it's in the thousandths place, your denominator will be 1,000. So here's another example I gave you. We have 0.25. You look at how many digits you have. I have 2 digits, so this means it ends in the hundredths place. 25 is written over 100. Simplify it and you get 1/4. Please make sure you're pausing and copying all of this down into your notebook. Now let's take a look at, so for repeating decimals, we're still going to use the place value, but we're going to be subtracting 1. Now, there is a longer version of how to do this with an equation, and I'm going to include a video of another teacher showing you that very quickly. It's a very short one if you want to see it. But when you get down to it, your denominators are going to be the place value minus 1. So in our denominators for repeating fractions, if your decimal ends in the tenths place, you're going to subtract a 1 from that and your denominator will be 9. If your decimal ends in the hundredths place, we'll subtract 1, and the denominator will be 99. Same thing, if it's in the thousandths place, we'll subtract 1, and our denominator will be 999. Then we simplify. So here's the example that we used earlier, 0.3 repeating. This is in the tenths place, so I'm going to take 10, it's in the tenths place. I'm going to subtract 1 because it's a repeating fraction, and I'm going to get 9. That's where that 9 comes from. And again, like I said, there is an equation that goes with this. We'll work on the equation more in class together, but this will get you to the same place, okay? All right, so let's take a look at this. Oh, I'm sorry. So here, 9 is your denominator. You have to simplify it. If it can be simplified, they can both be divided by 3. So 1/3 would be your fraction. So here, I have one that actually I've already done. Let's take a look at this one. So here, 4 is in the, if you look at 0.4 repeating, 4 is in the tenths place. So I'm going to set up the tenths place. I'm going to subtract 1. And so that's going to be my denominator and a 4 at the top, which is going to equal 4/9. This cannot be simplified. This is your final answer. Okay. Here I have 0.36. The 36 ends in the hundredths place. So again, my denominator would be 100 minus that 1 with 36 in the numerator, which is going to equal 100 minus 1 is 99, 36, and then you have to simplify it, which actually I have simplified here in the notes for you already. 9, you can divide both of them by 9, and so that's how we get that 4 over. Okay. All right, so there is no need to copy this because we have it here already. Just make sure you have the example written in one of the two places, somewhere in your notes. Okay, and similar to how we did this for the terminating decimal, you're going to separate the 1 plus 0.27 repeating, and we're going to focus on changing the decimal to a fraction. So 0.27, the 27 is in the hundredths place, so we're going to have 27 over 100 minus the 1 because it is a repeating decimal, and we get 27 over 99. Okay, and when you simplify that, we can divide them both by. All right, so 27 over 99, they can both be divided by a 9. Okay, and that's going to equal 27 divided by 9 is going to give you 3/11. Don't forget to include the 1 that was in the front. So this is going to be 1 and 3/11 is your final answer. Okay, so there you have it. We're going to try more of these in class. Let me know if you have any questions. You can write them down in your notebook or send it over on Remind. See you in class.